Hello, everyone, and welcome to UGASports Rumors versus Facts. I am here with Trent Smallwood today. I'm Blaine Gilmer, and we are going to be bringing you, like I said, another episode here of Rumors versus Facts as we talk all things UGA football recruiting. And, Trent, not only recruiting, but Georgia 10-0, first time since 1982. I mean, it's a fine time for the Georgia Bulldogs right now, both on the trail and on the field.
Yeah, definitely. And not only do they sit 10-0, but they got a couple games coming up, which they should be favored by a lot of points and should be able to handle. So you're looking at a team that's on the brink of going 12-0, and I don't think that's happened in a long time at the University of Georgia. So it's something to be excited about going towards the SEC championship and maybe the playoffs. I think Georgia, with the Oklahoma loss, has put Georgia in a good position to go to the SEC or go to the playoffs, even if they was to slip up in that SEC championship. So a lot of bright things coming, not on the recruiting trail, but on the field as well.
Oh, no doubt. And I think, a lot of people were under the impression if they made it past Tennessee, that team, with that high-powered offense, that they would be able to basically lock up a playoff spot if they handle business, of course. And I know they're not going to take anybody for granted, of course. That's just not how this team operates. But to your point, two teams that they should be able to handle business, that is going to have a little bit of an impact on recruiting here because it's going to be an opportunity, maybe if Georgia's able to take the lead and handle business like they should, to showcase some of that depth and some of that young talent, some of the freshmen that haven't burned, won't be in danger of burning red shirts and things like that, that'll get to play in some of these games, maybe see some Xavier Sorey and also some Smile Mundans and people like that that can play some more extensive reps in these types of games.
Yeah, and I think it might be an opportunity to maybe get Brock Vandegrift into a game, and maybe even play a whole quarter and maybe let him toss around the football a little bit. It's a bunch of guys, it goes all the way down the list, but it will be an opportunity to get those guys in. You mentioned Sorey. I'm excited to see him because this is your next, Georgia's losing a ton on that defense, and this is your next group of guys coming in that's going to, kind of take over next year, and it'd be good to get them some reps and be ready going into the spring.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And when you're talking about what Georgia could potentially, be losing, they went down with some guys in the middle of that defense, right? They went down, Devontae Wyatt went down a few times during that game, and you saw guys like Zion Logue and Warren Brinson get in there. So it just kind of shows you that those guys are not slouches of football players. It's just the fact that Georgia is so deep right now, and that is because of recruiting that we talk in and week out. And some people think that, oh, it's just Charleston Southern, this week and stuff. But Georgia still views this as a big opportunity to bring in talented recruits and things like that. And they're doing so with Sean Washington coming in for an official visit. They've got DJ Lagway, who's a 2024 quarterback that we highlighted on here last week from Texas. That is an unbelievable prospect. I don't know what's going on with the state of Texas in 2024, Trent, but you've got Raiola and Lagway both there who are unbelievable prospects.
Oh yeah, and I think this is something we talk about, on a weekly basis, is being able to take advantage of situations that are happening at certain teams, the LSU, Florida's, and now Texas. They're I'm not even sure they won a Big 12 game. They haven't won many, so you got a chance to take advantage of those situations, and Georgia getting into Texas would be huge, especially moving forward, in 23 and 24, and they got a prime opportunity to do so.
Absolutely. And, going forward here, we're looking also, not only are there some visitors coming in, but, like a guy who they just recently offered in the class of 2023 that, Trent, there's going to be some players now in this class of 2023, especially. I know Rivals is about to do a big re-rankings and things like that, that you're going to see some guys that were maybe under the radar climb up into those rankings and things like that. And one guy that we pointed out last week was Javonte Vereen, a tight end who is from North Carolina, that is 6'4", 210 and runs like a deer. I mean, catches everything. He'll be there this week, only just a week after Georgia offered him Todd Hartley. And, that's saying a lot to get an offer from Todd Hartley in that, especially in that class of 2023, Trent, because Todd Hartley is not someone that just offers a lot of people, right? I mean, he offers only guys that he wants to go after. And of course, they already have Pierce Spurlin there. They're going to end up taking 2 tight ends in the class of 2023. But with, already having offers out to Neo Avery and to Lawson Lucky, I think it says a lot that Todd Hartley thought enough about Javonte Vereen to go out and offer him.
Yeah, and you got a certain central, not central, Collins Hill, the guy that could play, tight end as well. But
yeah, Ethan Davis.
But yeah, Hartley's kind of the type of guy that he's going to extend 3 or 4, offers to guys that he wants, and then that's going to be his guy. He's like, you're my guy. I mean, that's kind of what he did with Oscar Delp. He kind of zeroed in on Oscar Delp, didn't send that many more offers. And the offers he did send out, they were aware that, if something falls through with Oscar Delp, then we're going to go that way. So he kind of knows what he wants and at the position at that position, and that's what he goes after. And tight end for Georgia, they've been used. They had 3 on the field a lot this past weekend against Tennessee, and you got to like what they're doing with them, especially Brock Bowers, the way they're using him.
They probably didn't want the 2 in the end zone in the same area that they were on that one throw. They probably wanted those tight ends spread out a little bit right there. But I'm not sure who ran the wrong route there, but there was definitely more traffic than I think they wanted tight end wise there. But no doubt that Georgia's changing the game here in terms of how tight ends are used. And, Trent, with Darnell Washington definitely coming back for at least one more year, and Brock Bowers, and then what they're bringing in Oscar Delp, that tight end room next year is going to be, I think, undisputed the best in the country.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, a year older Darnell Washington, a healthy Darnell Washington to start the year. I'm still not, sure he's 100%. You still see him hobbling every once in a while with that foot. And then another year of Brock Bowers. I mean, in my opinion, Brock Bowers is the most talented tight end in the country, just from an athletic standpoint. Just look how they're getting him the ball. They're running end arounds with him. They're doing a little bit of everything. Tight end screens, and he almost hauled that one down the sideline that Stetson missed the pass a little bit, but could have been a touchdown. So they know what type of tight ends they're looking for. They're utilizing them all, and that's really going to help. And recruiting wise moving forward.
No doubt. And then, before we wrap up on that position, Lawson Lucky had a big game last week for Norcross. I think he had 2 touchdowns in their first round win. Now they've got to head down to Lowndes County, which will be a big test for them, of course, coming up in this next week. But there's some high school football action. I know before we get to our questions here, I know you're planning on going to see Darius Smith as he comes into your neck of the woods. I think they're coming up to Cherokee Bluff, aren't they?
Yep.
Yeah. So
11-0 Cherokee Bluff.
Yeah, they're region champs, Cherokee Bluff, and they actually had a guy that visited Georgia not too long, Sebastian Irons, who's their quarterback. He made a visit to Georgia. Not that there's anything there, but he's a good football player. But Darius Smith is going to be coming up there with Appling County, so Trent will be watching there. I've actually decided I'm going to go and watch the Grayson Denmark game. There's a tackle at Denmark that hasn't been offered by Georgia yet, but he has been offered by several SEC schools. He's 6'6", 295 pounds. His name's I think it's Shamrod Murov. It's a very unconventional name there, but Shamrod, I'm going to go watch him. And then, of course, that Grayson team with JoJo Stone, with Walt Claire Flynn, with Michael Daughtery, all these big-time prospects that Grayson has, will be covering those guys and seeing what's going on there. And I think Jed may end up making the trip to see North Cobb take on Roswell. So UGASports will be fanned out across the state, taking in games this week of GHSA playoff action. So if you have any questions about that throughout the week or anything that you want to talk to us over on the UGA Sports Vault, then go ahead and submit those, of course. And did want to mention, as you see scrolling at the bottom of the screen, the show's presented by Dead Soxy. They make great quality socks, guys. I've actually got several pairs of my own now. I got a little bag or a little box that was provided to me by Roddy to kind of test them out and see what was all about. And I can tell you they're worth it. I've seen them in several stores around the Northeast Georgia area that I've been in. So check out those guys, Dead Soxy, and there's plenty of promo codes and things like that over on the website that you can get to get some good quality gear. They've got some alumni packages coming out. They were made by, Ole Miss fans, but now they're branching out and putting, Georgia colors, all that kind of stuff out there. So Dead Soxy, thank them for sponsoring the show. And Trent, before we get into the questions, last thing, we haven't really done a show since Raymond Cottrell flipped to Georgia from Florida. And then of course, Julian Humphrey not too long ago as well. So, Kirby Smart just continues to stick the knife in and twist it on Dan Mullen after that beat down in Jacksonville.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think he's done. Florida is on a downhill track, to say the least. They were losing 42-28 in the first half to Sanford. It's just not a good look down there right now, and a lot of recruits are taking notice. They don't know they fired the defense coordinator, fired their offensive line coach. And now, you go the next week and you play. What does the staff look like moving forward? And I think a lot of recruits are hesitant on that. And that's another situation that Kirby's taking full advantage of. And I know that he's enjoying taking advantage of this situation.
Well, also, Trent, it's not just recruits either. I'm not at liberty to say any names at this moment in time, but there's several players on that Florida roster that were recruited by the University of Georgia and are from the Peach State and are already, thinking about exit strategies should a change that seems inevitable go down. So you could see Georgia maybe even poach a couple of transfers from the Gators.
Yeah, and I mean Georgia was in on a lot of Florida guys too that are from Florida. Kyrie Elam, just a ton of kids down there that Georgia was in the mix for, that are some of the kids that are playing for the Gators right now that Georgia would have interest in, and I know there's some kids at LSU as well. So I think Kirby's going to work the transfer portal. He's going to leave some spots open in this class, no doubt, to poach on those those transfer portal. It'll be like kind of like last year. You were going to look what position is in need, what guys do we what guys transfer out, or who do I lose to the draft, and then kind of fill my needs with the transfer portal.
No doubt. And speaking of all that, we're going to hit a bunch of those things here on the question. So I'm going to go ahead and throw those up here. Pine Tree, our loyal questioner here, Pine Tree 1 from the vault, are Shamar Stewart and Marvin Jones trending away? In your opinion, are we set at DEOB or the edge position in this class with Madden, Smith, and Williams? So Trent, I'll let you touch on the other two, the first two here in a second, but I'm going to say, I think if Georgia were to finish this class with only CJ Madden, Darius Smith, and Michael Williams, it would not be a disappointing class by any means. Those are three extremely talented edge rushers, and I think CJ Madden is going to grow into someone that it does a lot of different things at his time as Georgia. He's not going to be ready right away because he's been asked to do different things, and he's had to, he sat out a year of high school due to ineligibility and things like that. So it's going to take him a little time to adjust, but the freak athleticism and the length and things like that, I think is going to pay off there. And of course, everybody knows what they're getting in Smith and Williams. Trent, what's your opinion on that? And then, of course, you can touch on Shamar Stewart and Marvin Jones.
I do think Shamar is trending more towards Texas A&M right now. Texas A&M is going to have a good class. They've been in on a lot of guys, unless they just totally botch, the last, downhill stretch to National Signing Day. They're going to sign a very good class. Marvin Jones was, Florida State's in it big. Florida State had a big win over Miami. I still think Georgia's, working there. Georgia's working to get him on campus, but and I do think he will visit again. But Florida State, has some momentum now, just for the fact they beat Miami. That is a home state school, and he's kind of feeling that vibe right now. But trending away, this is going to come down to the last month of the season, last month before early signing day. I guess we are at last month, but it's going to come down to December visits.
The last days.
The Georgia's going to be playing, all the way up, with the SEC championship, all the way up to that last weekend before National Signing Day, or the week before National Signing Day. So they're going to have basically one visit, one weekend, and I'm sure they're going to have a lot of these guys on campus that last weekend before signing day, and it's going to come down to that weekend or the couple of days after that weekend. So I wouldn't necessarily say trending away, but I would say there's some teams that's got some momentum right now.
Yeah, and no doubt, talking about these are high school kids, right? And we've always said that, it's not that one game between, two teams that are recruiting somebody's going to make a difference, but trends do. And, there's always been this trend, this negative recruiting, right, against Georgia a little bit when it comes to who? Alabama, right? Well, and that Marvin Jones is also being pursued by Alabama as well. If Georgia's able to go to that SEC championship game and handle business against an Alabama team the way they've come so close to doing two times before, Trent, there's no telling what that does for recruiting right there with just, Kirby being able to say, hey, we broke the wall down now, and it's Katie bar the door.
Kirby's classes have been good, and I'm still waiting to the day, and it could be here in about 4 or 3 weeks that it happens, but I'm still waiting on the day to see what happens after Georgia takes over Alabama on the field, because recruiting, and they've still been head to head. It's been close, but this recruiting could really take off if Georgia starts to knock off Alabama on the field. It could really start taking off even more.
Absolutely. Now, another question here we have about Jay Doggy says, is Jordan James keeping his options open by not signing on early signing day? Who would the staff target if James wavers in his recruitment? Well, according to, Jed May, our colleague Jed May, Jed's not with us tonight. He's had some other stuff going on that he had to take care of. But Jordan James told Jed May when he went up to see him play a couple of weeks ago that he would be signing on National Signing Day, early signing day. I don't think that he's in a process of keeping options open or anything like that. But, Trent, I just think he's going to sign. He's just not going to enroll early.
Yeah, I everything that I've heard from sources that says that he's going to sign early but not enroll early, and there's a handful of those guys. Even Branson Robinson's not going to sign. He's going to sign early but not enroll early. There's a few of those guys, but you look at what the commit list right now. If a commit don't sign early now, majority of the time he is looking around or he's being asked to look around, and it happens every year. And I'm not calling out any names, but it happens every year, and so we'll see moving closer to signing day what's going on. But everything that I've heard is he plans on signing early and just not enrolling early.
Absolutely. I think if there would be someone that for some reason something happened, they did target another running back. They had Damari Alston on campus, not long ago, the Auburn commit, Woodward Academy, a big matchup this week between Woodward Academy and Blessed Trinity in the second round of the playoffs. Damari Alston is a tremendous running back, and they haven't offered him yet, just because I think I don't know. I don't think they want to mess with anything they got right now going on, but it's never hurts to make contact with guys because you never know who's going to end up where, who transfers where, all that kind of stuff. So it's, just good for, I think, Georgia to pursue that and keep their options open. And Del McGee's always thinking, 5 steps ahead anyway. So that's that there, J Doggy. Whiskey and Weed. Which commit has had the best senior season? Trent, which commit do you think has had the best senior season?
I mean, I don't know how to, handpick it. I think they've all, Oscar Depps had a great senior season.
I mean, of course you could say Gunnar Stockton, but I think,
that's a kind of a given. I mean, it goes down the list. I'm trying to think everybody who's on. I know that, Darius Smith had a great senior season at several different positions. He plays wide receiver. He plays defensive end. He plays several positions. I'm looking forward to seeing him Friday night. I mean, I don't know who's had the best. it'd be hard to say who has the best, but they've all had outstanding season, and unless injuries have occurred. But
Yeah, I think Dylan Bell
Dylan Bell's the name, yeah.
and Ja'Cory Thomas are two names that stuck out to me in terms of, man, they just really, really performed every Friday night, doing multiple things for their teams, carrying, touching the ball in different ways, being mixed in on defense in Ja'Cory Thomas's, case and things like that, playing both ways, doing special team stuff. So they really did a lot for their teams this year. And I think those are two guys that would be mentioned. But like I said, in terms of a pure numbers standpoint, Gunnar Stockton, I mean, he gets to play the whole game against teams, and they just pound them into oblivion. So that stat sheet gets filled up pretty good there for Gunnar.
And Malachi Starks fills it up pretty good too.
No doubt, no doubt. Pine Tree One, who are our top two current commits in your opinion? So Trent, if you were just going to say the top two guys that you think are the best commits right now for Georgia, who are your guys you're going with?
I'd have to go with Malachi Starks and dang, I don't know. Branson Robinson, maybe.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on Malachi Starks. That was the first one that came to my mind, and then my other two that I went back and forth with was potential of what I see at the next level or immediate need and fit, and my other one that I thought it was between Bear Alexander and Oscar Delp, because I just see Oscar Delp being whatever Brock Bowers has been this year. I see Oscar Delp not being very far behind in terms of the capability to do that. Who knows? He probably won't get as many targets and things like that because Bowers is going to be there and because it's a different team and scenario, but he certainly has the ability to do so. But I think Bear Alexander is a guy who could come in and play first week, like against Oregon next year. I think Bear Alexander could be on the field.
Yeah, I mean, and you still have Gunnar Stockton, who's you've seen how the kind of the Georgia offense is going this year. They've gone more to the quarterback that can run the ball. They can run a lot of RPOs, and and that Gunner's a guy that can fit that mold. So, you got a bunch of you're talking about a Georgia class. In pretty much every year, you ask who the best two commits are. It's hard because the majority of the time they got 20 or 22 absolute studs in their class.
No doubt, no doubt. CTS 44044 says, which targets are planning on committing during the All-American game, and which targets do you see committing before the SEC championship game? Love the show. Keep up the good work. Go Dogs. So we appreciate that, CTS 44044. Appreciate that. But Trent, I know the one that sticks out is Kristen Miller has told us repeatedly that he's going to be committing during the used to be the Army All-American. I think it's just the All-American Bowl now. He's going to be committing during that. I can't think of any others off the top of my head that are going to be waiting out to specifically for that game. I know that,
Marvin Jones might be waiting.
Yeah, Marvin Jones might be waiting. I think in terms of, the guys who could commit before, there's guys there that are really close in terms of Kristen Miller, even though we just said he would announce he could commit at any time. I truly believe. I think he's right there with Georgia on that. I think Singletary is right there, could commit basically at his leisure. Kamari Wilson is really just, I think, taking advantage of visits and just going around at this point in time. I feel like he could commit at any time, but I think Singletary would be the closest, and then maybe one of those 2023 tight ends, whether it's a Neo Avery or a Lawson Lucky, could be guys that could commit before the SEC championship. Possibly, they're also working hard on Madden Sanker in that class, people like that. So very interesting. Braden Joyner came out today and said Auburn and Georgia are his last two. I think that may have swung more towards Auburn here recently, but who knows on all that? Any more 2022 guys that you think could be on the cusp of committing here soon?
I'm just looking at the wide receivers. They're still after 3 or 4. I guess it's really down to 2 or 3 wide receivers that they're really going after, and I'm not sure the timelines here, but Shaz Preston will be one to watch coming December, and and we'll look for a couple other names coming.
I
But
mean, I think you until the pen hits the paper, you still have to look at Luther Burden and see, what happens
yeah,
there.
and yeah, uh, by no means do I think that he's flipping to Georgia, but by no means do I feel like it's over. And it's I still think Georgia's in it. I think Georgia's talking to him, communicating with him, but it's and one of those things like we talked about with Travis Hunter in the past. This is it's just he's a 5-star name. With his connections to where he's committed at. If it happens, it'll be a late, towards early signing day.
No doubt. Sandbar bathroom. What's the word with James Pierce? Senior highlights are filled. So the defensive end out of state of North Carolina, 3-star right now on Rivals, but a guy who could be a late riser in the rankings. He's got great length and athleticism. I know Georgia likes him there, Sandbar. I know Georgia likes him, but Trent, do you have any more info on James Pierce at this time?
No, I think when coming to recruiting, you got to monitor everything that goes on with recruits. And I think there is some academic stuff he has to catch up on before. And he might not even be a guy that signs early necessary. He could be one of those guys that they push back to February signing day and kind of approach it then. But I think Georgia really likes him. I think he's a guy that Georgia would like to have in this class. But I do think there is some academic stuff that he has to catch up on.
No doubt, no doubt. And then RP 11296. Heard Julian H is now recruiting. Julian Humphrey is now recruiting hard for Georgia, and some are listening. Have you heard of some of the names he's trying to pull? Well, here's the thing with Julian Humphrey. If you follow him on social media, he doesn't make things he doesn't leave much to the imagination, right? Like for 2 weeks, everybody knew he was committing to Georgia. I mean, he's posting Georgia pictures and all this kind of stuff for 2 weeks leading up to the commitment. Everybody knew, hey, this is going down because the guy's just feeling Georgia and he's not shy about it. I think Trent that he posted a picture with Jonel Aguero and Kamari Wilson. So those are 2 players that obviously are in his crosshairs, so to speak. And I was kind of pseudo taking credit for the walk-on from IMG that committed tonight. I think his name's Terrell Foster, a walk-on that I admittedly did not know much about. We saw that commitment come through, and we're like, oh, this has to be a walk-on commitment, and reached out and found that's what it was. But he was even taking credit for that at this point. So he's the typical DB that is already learning the art of talking a little junk right here.
Yeah, and they already had 2 or 3 really cowbells leading the way, and just adding Julian is another step in the right direction. And it shows up on the field, in the later years, like they are this year. You got the juniors and seniors, and you're really seeing a lot of leadership, and you see that leadership start when it starts in recruiting classes. You saw Richard LeCount, you saw Jake Fromm. See what that recruiting class turned into. You see what happened. They almost led them to a national championship, or led them to the national championship game. So you see that leadership really stand out on the recruiting trail, and it's fun to watch it, move into their years. But he really is. I saw him tweet at Christian Miller tonight, and he's going to be vocal, no doubt about it, and he's going to try to pull Singletary. And you talked about the IMG walk on. This Georgia's really getting their foot in the door in IMG, and that is another thing to watch moving forward over the next 2 or 3 years.
If you're getting walk-ons from IMG, that's changing your roster complexion a little bit there.
Yeah, just a little bit.
So that's good stuff to follow there. But yeah, definitely guys like Jalen Walker and Denylon Morissette, now Oscar Delp, since he's been committed. Even to be honest with you, Oscar Delp before he was committed was already doing, because Oscar Delp, I think, knew for a while that he was going to be going to the University of Georgia. Just kind of took his time on announcement, and he's been recruiting guys as well. So it is it's definitely an interesting dynamic there. Dog bite you. What is happening with Singletary? I know silence is supposedly golden, but it sure seems awfully quiet as far as UGA is concerned. I just don't see much to be worried about there. Trent, I think that Georgia's in a great place with Jaheim Singletary, especially having gotten him back on campus yet another time a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Singletary is not one. He's quite the opposite of Julian Humphrey. He's not a vocal one on necessarily on Twitter or as vocal, and he's kind of kept this to himself throughout this whole process. He's not been very vocal. He committed to Ohio State, but then he kind of backed off that pledge, and ever since then he hasn't been extremely vocal with everything. So I wouldn't look at him being quiet as a reason for concern. I think Georgia. He's not being quiet at Georgia. He's still communicating with Georgia continuously. I think the Georgia is communicating with the family continuously, and I think Georgia is in a very good place there.
Will Muschamp, Jamila Dye, Kirby Smart, Dan Lannon are all heavily involved in that recruitment there. And even Todd Hartley as well. Todd Hartley for a couple of years, Trent, was the one laying the foundation with Jaheim Singletary there. So got to give Hartley a lot of credit there if he does ultimately end up becoming a Bulldog, as many of us here on UGA Sports have predicted with Futurecast already. Drew Yang 96, how likely is it that Georgia end up with Shamar James and Marvin Jones? We've already talked about Marvin Jones. Georgia's right in the thick of it. I think Georgia's in an even better position with Shamar James at this point, Trent.
Yeah, I think so. Shamar James loves what Georgia's doing on the field. He loves what Georgia's doing with their linebackers. And that's another, you look at the defensive line, and we talked about that earlier in the year. Look at the defensive line dominating and how they're really putting Georgia on the map as far as defensive linemen. And defensive linemen took notice, and you've seen Georgia get back in it and pull bear. And now they're doing the same thing with inside linebacker. A lot of inside linebackers wanting to jump on board. And I think Shamar James is Georgia sits in a good spot there, moving down the stretch.
Well,
that's another former Florida commit.
No doubt. And then also, when you talk about Marvin James, let's say Marvin James were to go elsewhere, and let's say that Shamar Stewart were to go elsewhere, and Georgia really doesn't pull any more of the edge guys, right? Well, they have Demario Tolan, who plays outside linebacker right now, that visited a couple weeks ago, that has already set an official visit to come, I think, between the SEC championship. So they could be looking at, okay, let's take some of these guys and fortify the middle with, Quay Walker and Shannon Tindall and Nakobe Dean probably exiting for the NFL after this year. And fortify the middle, but also have guys who are versatile, like a Tolan, like a Jalen Walker, who can play inside and outside in this class of 2022. And, I'd keep an eye on that. If Georgia misses out on a Marvin Jones, or if they miss out on a Shamar Stewart, just know that there's options there to be creative with some of the inside backer positions, not only in this class, but in the previous class of 2021, that Georgia can do some things with, Trent.
I'm pretty sure Tolan saw Georgia again this past weekend. I think he was visiting Tennessee.
Okay.
So he's seen Georgia several times. He's seen that defense on display. And, you talk to any of these defensive recruits and you ask them, they're like, what defensive player would not want to play for this staff? I mean, you have Muschamp, you have Lanning, you have Kirby, you have, and the list goes on. And I think Georgia fans need to, sit back and take note that this might be Georgia's best defensive staff that they'll ever have. Just kind of looking at it in the big picture, you look back at Saban's staff, and he had was like 17 or 15 or something like that, and he had all those guys on or 15, because he had all those guys on his staff.
Well, it was Kirby Smart. It was was Loxley on there yet? I don't know, but Mario Cristobal was on there. There was lots of future head coaches that were on that staff for sure. So Mel Tucker
was on that staff too.
Yeah.
So you look at the staff and you're like, this is something special. It's Georgia's got something special going on in a coaching staff, and I think even the offensive staff. I think Todd Monken's done a great job with what he's had this year with all the injuries and losing the guys that he has, losing your left tackle, losing your right guard, losing all the wide receivers they've lost, not having your starting tight end at the beginning of the year. And he's done a good job of just keeping that offense going, letting the defense do its thing, and putting points on the board. So Georgia's got a special staff in Athens right now, and then showing up on the recruiting trail.
No doubt. And a guy like Todd Hartley, for sure, right? I'm not sure Todd Hartley ever has the aspirations to be a head coach. I think he's a great family guy and likes what he's doing. But there's no doubt that he's putting in work over there in terms of recruiting the last couple of years, and that he's able to help out with special teams and things like that as well. So, like you said, there's a lot of versatility on this staff. Scuffletown Dog comes to us again. He says, hello, look forward to this every week. We look forward to having you here with us, Scuffletown Dog. So what prospects in 2023 might be trending to Georgia? We talked earlier. I mentioned the name, Madden Sanker. He's one of the top linemen in the class, and also a Peach State, guy from over in the Paulding County area over there. I think he's a guy that Georgia's all on top of for sure. Justice Haynes is a guy that they want very, very badly. That'll be a big, intriguing matchup between Woodward and Blessed Trinity, as I mentioned earlier. Lawson Lucky is a Georgia legacy that they're all over. Even another Georgia legacy, Justin Benton, an IMG, they stay close with. So, and then AJ Harris, of course, as well. Trent, is there any other 2023 guys you can think of that maybe there's some momentum behind?
I mean, I'm not going to say Arch Manning, so no, y'all want me to say Arch Manning, but I mean, looking at the list here, you
Michael Daugherty, maybe he's a guy that they've been on for a good while.
And Miles McVay is a guy that they're on really hard. Yeah, it's just a ton of kids. Zachariah. Oh no, he's a big kid though.
There's a lot of guys that they're working through right now. Even in terms of like I said, they've got Pierce Sperlin, who's out there being.
Vic Burley.
You talked about Jalen Walker and Danilon Morissette being a leader. Well, Pierce Sperlin, as the longest committed dog, he's out there recruiting a lot of guys. He's out there tweeting it too, Lawson Lucky and things like that. So I think when you terms of guys who are trending towards Georgia, I would say a guy like a Lawson Lucky, a Madden Sanker, a Justice Haynes, because he's a Georgia legacy, and he has to like what he sees out of Zamir White and James Cook to this point in the season.
Yeah, for sure. Those would be the guys, but this is going to be another class that Georgia can build off of. If Georgia can make a serious run here, they're already sitting 10-0, go 12-0, win that if they was to knock Alabama off in the SEC championship. And then you're looking at guys that you might can make a run for, like Tony Mitchell out of Alabama. So and Georgia has a chance to really go on a special run here and on the recruiting trail and on the field.
Oh, and Jonel Aguero as well. I mean, you two guys at IMG that just popped into my mind, Aguero and also Malik Bryant. Those are two guys, on the defensive side of the ball that Georgia is constantly staying in contact with, and Georgia as well positioned with each one as well. And now, like we said, just more and more commits. There's Barry Alexander, down there recruiting on Georgia's behalf. I mean, there's a lot of prospects down there at IMG that in many classes that Georgia's kind of trending in good shape with. Yep. Scuffletown did follow up with a question. He said he forgot to ask, especially about Arch Manning with Texas not doing good this year. It's hard for me to say that about the Manning family, right? Because when you talk about any other recruit, maybe you say, yes, Texas doing bad. But I think with the perspective that Arch's family has, right, they're able to see things from a, kind of 30,000 foot view and know that, hey, you can't get too tied into the now. You got to see the infrastructure and what they're going to surround you with and all that kind of stuff. So I think he'll handle it, from a little bit more standoffish type way. What are your thoughts on that, Trent?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna. I mean, they're coming to see. Are they comfortable with the offense coordinator that's there? Are they comfortable with the relationships they have? There is a relationship with Todd Monken. There is a relationship with Matt Luke there. They're looking at the overall. What's best for him is even outside of football. This is a. We talk about a lot of times that it's a business decision, but and of course all recruitments are business decisions, but this is a little bit more. They're looking more in depth. They're Texas being 4-6 isn't really going to eliminate them. Ole Miss, they're doing well, but their type of offense, Kiffin's running, it's not really going to eliminate them. He's going to look at the whole thing, that everything that's going on, and make the best decision for him, whether it's Ole Miss, Alabama, Georgia, or Texas.
Yeah, I don't, and I just don't think you can ever count out Alabama, especially in a high profile recruitment like that as well. But when you talk about Arch Manning, when it comes down to things, he's just going to be one of the most well informed because he played. He's the relative of some of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. So he's going to know all the ins and outs of recruiting, and you can just bet that it's going to make an informed decision. But Buster Faulkner as well is someone who's been crucial in Arch Manning's recruitment, and it'll be interesting to see. There, like you said, Georgia's got a good staff this year, but there's going to be people, especially if you win a national championship, that come calling and try to pluck some of those guys away. Can you keep a Buster Faulkner who's there on an analyst type role and things like that? It'll be interesting to see how stuff happens there.
Yeah, I think Buster's sitting there just waiting on Todd Monken to go. As soon as Todd Monken goes, it's kind of it's built just like Alabama was. They got guys that are analysts, and then they slide guys in, and then they hire new analysts, and they slide those guys in, and they hire new analysts a year in and a year out, and they got basically 15, 20 on the field coaches on staff just ready to slide guys in. So I think Buster is one of those guys that's sitting there patiently waiting on that position to open, but he's playing a huge role for Georgia right now, especially with the quarterbacks.
No doubt. DGD 1994. What is the deal with Canoe and Kojo? Hero Canoe, he visited a couple weeks ago. Kojo, I just don't see him ending up at Georgia, honestly. Are there any wide receivers other than Preston left that are highly rated that they could land? I think other than Preston, Luther Burden, in my opinion, is your best bet to try to flip him. I think Andre Green, I think that ship has sailed. And don't know really about. I think Georgia either goes to the portal to get one if they don't get Shaz Preston, or maybe it's a name like a Caleb Webb from McEachern or somebody that just climbs up the ranks that Georgia ends up taking in the class.
Yeah, I don't think the two guys to begin. I don't see at Georgia right this second. Uh, I think they're trying to get a true playmaker out wide, and I think it's either Preston, Luther Burden, or they just hold tight where they're at and test their luck in the portal. Because, like I said, there is guys going to be available in the portal. There's going to be some good guys available in the portal because of all the coaching turnover. So you can test your luck there rather than taking a flyer on somebody else. So I think they'll hold that spot for the portal.
No doubt. And we've talked about Shamar James winding up. I think he winds up at Georgia right now, but you never can count out Alabama, especially with him being a mobile guy. That who knows, the SEC championship could end up being an important deal there in terms of just trends with programs and things like that. Kilo Braun, how are we feeling with Ernest Green, Vic Burley, and AJ Harris? We've already talked about AJ Harris. I think he's a slight lean to Georgia, maybe, but North Carolina and Clemson, schools like that, definitely pursuing hard. Alabama pursuing him hard as well. Vic Burley, Trent, you probably know more about Vic than I do. I know Warner Robins is going to be playing Cartersville this weekend, so that'll be an opportunity to see him against a very quality opponent there. And then Ernest Green, I feel like Ernest Green is Georgia's to lose at this point. We'll see if Ohio State is able to make another run and things like that. But I feel like Georgia's in a great position with Ernest Green.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Ernest Green, I feel like Georgia's still sitting at that pole position there. AJ Harris is Georgia's has done a great job there. I think they're sitting near the top there, but this has got a long ways to go. And Vic, he's I think Georgia's looking at him hard. I think they're going to continue to evaluate that position. But Vic is a guy that Georgia really likes, and we'll see where that is moving forward. I know Vic is very interested in Georgia as well. So, and then Overton reclassifying, I'll believe
I wouldn't hold your breath on it.
I don't think that's happening just yet. If it does, I'll be surprised.
And then DGD 1994 said, when will Singletary commit? I think it'll be somewhere, between now and the SEC championship. I don't see him waiting until signing day just to sign. He could, but, I think Singletary before the SEC championship will probably pull the trigger on that if things stand currently where we expect with Georgia. But Trent, any parting thoughts here before we sign off?
You don't have that commit story wrote yet, Singletary?
Hey, we got some in the bank, man, but we'll see what happens.
No, I just think Georgia's, they're sitting at what, 23 commits, and they're and they're still in for 4 or 5 top guys, and I think you're going to see Georgia push for maybe 4 or 5 more spots in this class to get to maybe 27 and hold 4 or 5 spots for the transfer portal, because you're going to have a lot of guys available in that transfer portal, and I'm not sure they're going to push their numbers in the class when they know there's going to be some availability in the portal. And might be some positions of need for guys like a Darion Kendrick that can come in and to fill a spot immediately, because this Georgia defense is going to be young next year, and they're going to need some spots. So,
well, and I think it being the first year with that 7 rule, the 7 extra rule because of the transfers and all that, everybody's going to see how that works, right?
Yeah.
Because we all think that we know, but I'm sure there's some caveats and some things that are going to take place that it'll make Kirby Smart, look like he's staring at one of those reporters with 5 heads over there when they ask him a question. He'll be looking at him with a weird way, being like, "Well, you don't really understand how it goes, and there's more that goes into it than what you're asking."
I'm sure there's going to be reports like, "Did you ask those 7 guys to transfer out of your program?" So
Yeah, absolutely. So that is our show here tonight. Georgia recruiting rumors versus facts on the UGA Sports YouTube channel. Do us a favor, hit the like button. It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit that thumbs up button. We appreciate it if you would do that. Also, subscribing. It's free. Subscribe here on YouTube and turn on notifications so you get anytime that we go live on the UGA Sports YouTube channel, where there's Jim Donnan show on Tuesdays at 12 with Roddy. We've got Around the League with Brent and Dane and Jim Donnan on Thursdays. Of course, our show here on Mondays. So we really appreciate you joining us to talk UGA football recruiting. We'll be back with more on next Monday. And of course, I'll be covering the recruits and putting a photo gallery out of who shows up to visit on Saturday. So for Trent Smallwood, I'm Blaine Gilmer, and we will catch you next Monday on Georgia Recruiting Rumors versus Facts here on UGAsports.com.